Hi all, so today we're looking at summary of or a plot of One Part Woman by Perumal Murugan. So this is the copy of One Part Woman by Perumal Murugan which I'm using. So this translation copyright was done in the year 2013, so I'm following the 2013 edition. Coming to the text, so I'll just give you an introduction of One Part Woman, and then I will go in detail explanation of what's happening inside the text chapter wise. So Perumal Murugan opens up the layers of desire, longing, loss, and fulfillment in a relationship with extraordinary sensitivity and surgical precision, said Ambai. One Part Women is a deep, strong storyline which employed various symbols, humor, mythical elements, strong belief system, use of pet names, use of fun. The narrative techniques used are flashback technique, use of folklore in the narration. Symbols used are the portria tree, fenced enclosure, gods and goddesses, smile, rock temple. Predictions and superstitions are used to connect the past and the present. The theme of One Part Women are marriage, imagination, masculinity, patriarchy, manliness, oppression, superstition, male resistance, myth and worship, money and inheritance, free spiritedness, caste, marginalization, matriarchy, folklore, parenthood, dilemma, gender studies, and escapism. So I'll just quickly go through the plot of the text and go in detail with the text. So One Part Women consists 34 chapters total, and chapter 1 starts with the description of Portia tree. Punna and Kali were married. Kali is a man filled with imaginations and fancies. 12 years went fast since they were married. They were controlled by the patriarchal system, which questions Kali's manliness throughout the text. Kali is called his father-in-law's slave. Kali is also controlled by the dominance of matriarchal pressure. Perumal Murugan has used multiple symbols to foster his writing. Chapter 2 explores both Kali and Punna's emotions due to lack of child. Punna hardly goes out of the house and Berenyad, but that's not the case with men, especially Kali. Kali has to face different crowd both within family and the society. The amount of criticism faced by men are double folded than women. Thus, the pressure handled by men are more compared to women in the same society. Chapter 3 is a spring of emotions which dwells with Kali and Punna's intimacy and marriage. The chapter also highlights the authentic system of superstition and system of prediction. Chapter 4 continues the same. It highlights on how Kali was humiliated and oppressed. It also stands as the voice of oppressed. It also stands as the voice of voiceless. Foregrounds the male resistance. It dealt with the blind belief and lack of awareness among individuals in the society on IVFs and surrogacy and modern infertility facilities. The story reminds or is a memorial of Kali's lineage. It's the story of Kali's father, grandfather, and great-grandfather. Perumal Murugan adopts humor which makes or brings the reader close to the text. Finally, this chapter is a revisioning of curse and retribution. Chapter 5 draws close to the mythology, devatas and gods. There is a flashback story where 4 men rape a tribal girl, which also has intervention of gods, and there is connection with Perumal Murugan's work, Madhur Bhagan. Chapter 6 is about Kali's strong urge to have a child, and it's a compilation of all rituals conducted and offerings made of Kali's family to have a child. The next chapter is a continuation of the same. There is a add-on where Kali's mother conducts offspring offerings to God for a gift of grandchild. Chapter 8 is about offerings and prayers made both by Kali and Purna to conceive child. There is Purna to conceive child. There is description of the rock temple and experience on climbing it. This chapter also emphasizes the strong belief system. It describes how marriage is a license for love making. Chapter 9 exhibits how Kali was mocked by the society. Perumal Murugan employ pet naming to his characters, which is common in his region. So this was based on my summarization and my write-up. Now I would go in depth with the text. So one part women, the first chapter talks about poetry and story behind it. It also talks about marriage, that is Kali, his name is Kaliyappan, and Punna. It also talks about imaginations and fancies by Kali. It talks about the strong patriarchy, and we also get to know as readers that it was 12 years of marriage. Kali question, there is dots in between about masculinity, and Kali is wounded. Kali is wounded within the family and the pressure outside his family. Repeatedly, there's a questioning of Kali's manliness. Kali is also called his father-in-law's slave in page 5. And there is also images of oppression. Kali was under his mother's control. And moving on to chapter 2. Chapter 2 talks about Punna's feelings and Kali's emotions. And it also talks about oppression or the pressure that Kali had to handle. We also get to know in chapter 2 that men have to face that extra pressure compared to the women in the society. Chapter 3 is all about marriage and superstition. Chapter 4 talks about Kali and Punna's romance, how romantic they are as couples, and we get images of repeatedly Kali humiliated for not having child. Perumal Murugan also uses smile throughout the text as a symbol. And we also get to know how men can resist throughout the text. Superstition and blind beliefs amongst people is also portrayed in the text in page 20. And there is this big flashback story throughout the text, that is Kali's great grandfather's story in page 21, 22 and 23. And we also get to know humor. Perumal Murugan has adopted humor throughout the text here and there to bring in smile on the face of the readers. And chapter 5 is about the myth and how the 4 men raped a forest tribal girl, which is page 26. And there is also dots about Madhura Bhagan in page 29. And one part women, the English version in page 30. And there is also stories about Ishwaran, the god, and the worship throughout page 32 and 33. And chapter 6 is all about the Devatas, and Kali is badly in need of a child. Kali and his families, I don't think Kali is badly in need of the child, but it is the society, it is the family which pressurizes him to have a child. He was not a man who was so keen to have a child or wanted to have a child. And chapter 7 is again the storyline which talks about Kali and Muttu, and again there is humor in between, and also it talks about Kali's mother's efforts put in to have a grandchild, and offerings and prayers by Kali and Purna is all detailed in chapter 8. There is this rock temple and what they do with the rock temple and the belief system. is said in chapter. And also marriage is a license to make love making according to Kali. It also talks about offerings, humbleness of Kali, how humble he is as a man, and how men compress their emotions. At least women, for example, Purna, there is an outburst of emotions. She gets angry, she cries. That's how she shows off her emotions. But a man like Kali, or men in general, they don't, right? So how it stands, or it is a pressure on man. And chapter 9 is about the patriarchal dominance and usage of pet names by Perumal Murugan, which is also a dialect by the Kongu, in the Kongu region. It also talks about Kali's uncle and their children who are sent to Kali's house, and what happens between them and Purna, and how they stop sending their children to Kali's house. Purna's uncle wanted his property. There is also images of patriarchal dominance and how money and inheritance play is a vital role in relationship amongst human beings. Children are connected to property, and Purna takes care of Sarasa's children in page 64. And what happens there? Rituals and beliefs did not change anything. So they followed lots of things, that lots of offerings that they did. There were lots of things that they did, but yet nothing changed about them or their life. And in chapter 10, we get to know that Kali had trust issues as an individual, and we have this fantastic character that is Nalayan in page 70, and we get to know the story of Nalayan. He was dominated by the patriarchal system itself, and he was this man who never bothered to get married. And we also get to know that Nalla Appan was also was a free spirited man. He kind of was a super character, which I personally liked. He did not believe in the system of marriage. He did not believe in the system of anything that the society folded on an individual. He was search for peace is also said in discussed in page 74, which also shows us that Perumal Murugan as a man, how he looks at the men. I can feel Perumal Murugan as a man through his reflection on the characters in his novels. And Kali is in need of peace. Kali wanted peace. We here and there also get to know caste and marginalization, though there is no big dominance of it throughout the novel. And we also get to know that men drink, which kind of stands as a means to escape the reality or the world. And we also get to know the matriarchy, that is the female dominance. Kali is dominated by his mother. Kali is dominated by the women in the society. Kali is dominated by Purna. Kali is dominated by his mother-in-law. So there is matriarchal dominance in the text. And Purna's mother and Kali's mother discuss a lot about what could be done. So they plan for the temple festival. And we also get to know in page 77 that Kali is in love with Purna, and he loves Purna too much. In chapter 11, we get to know the there is festivity, and the festivals begin, and the village prepares for the same. We also get to know about the dance and the dancers. In page 81, we get to know who is a real man and masculinity in page 82 and 83. And we also get to know in chapter 12 about Nalayan and his inheritance, and how he was again dominated by the patriarchy. Agony of Nalayan uncle is said in page 86, and deep discussions about marriage is discussed in page 88. Chapter 13 is all about Kali's mother who drinks toddy, and how even women get into drinking then. And Kali and his mother talk a lot about things, and Kali is seen speechless in page 95, and Kali is blank about what to do next, because there was a talk about sending Purna to the temple festival. And the temple, in chapter 14, we get to know that the temple festival itself was only for 18 days. 18 days. And we also get to know how shy Kali is in terms of expressing his emotions, or as a person, as an individual himself, and which kind of shows that even men can be shy. Okay, it's not that men can also have feminine traits. And Kali had no interest in the chariot festival. Kali is also seen or said to be a useless fellow in page 100. And we also get to know how people keep on mocking and pressurize Kali to that he does not have a child. And Punna is also seen isolated herself from people. In chapter 15, we get to know all about Nalayan and what is this concept on parenthood. There's a very strong line wherein he mentions this. Let me read this out for you all. Why, for whom do I hang my head low now? It is only you who is relentlessly talking about having children. All right, go ahead and have a child. But do you know how you should live? Like that crow that has built a nest on that palm tree. When it knows it is going to lay eggs, it builds its nest. Then it incubates the eggs and hatches them. It finds food for the little ones and takes care of them until they grow their own wings. Once that happens, what do you think is the relationship between the baby crow and its mother? They go their separate ways. You got your wings, now get out of here and fend for yourself. That's the way to live. Instead, we give birth, raise them, get them married, save money, and struggle. So this is a very strong line or dialogue by Nalayan, and that shows the kind of person he is. And it again talks about the dilemma, and there is community meeting happening. There is a strong comment by Nalayan again in page 106, and we get to know that Nalayan is a man who is civilized. He knows what's happening, and Kali lacked the courage that Nalayan uncle had. In chapter 16, in page 111, we see Kali is humiliated again and again because he didn't have the child, and there is a straight remark in page 113 that children are very, very important. And we again get to know the agriculture process in 114. And chapter 17, we see Kali is shy again, and his mother told the son to send his wife to another man, which he cannot accept at all. Forget about him having a child or not, but then he does not want to share his wife with anyone else. There is a strong remark about it in chapter 17. And then there is a urge to show manliness in page 119. Chapter 18 is again the same storyline, where Kali explains Muthu about his farm, and we get to know the old Kali versus the new Kali in page 127. And chapter 19 is all about bit and pieces about Dalits, and we get to know about Nalayan as a good-hearted person. We also get to know God and the belief system. Chapter 20 is all about the talk between Kali and Muthu. Muthu is Punna's brother, and we get to know that Kali is a learned man. He kind of says this line in page number 139. He says, it happened because people were ignorant in those days. Who will send their woman now? Will you send your wife? So Kali has a very strong question. Kali is not interested at all to send his wife to another man, which I think as an individual all of us would have thought about. And then he talks about he compares the times then and times now, which shows that the text one part woman is quite suitable in the present time. It is quite universal in itself. And Kali is not, we also get to know in chapter 21 minor characters in how Muthu escapes from the reality. Though he is married, he has children. Okay, how he escapes from the reality, the kind of stress that gender or a male gender goes through. And we also get to know that Muthu escapes from the patriarchy. Muthu also faces pressure from his father, and he tries to escape the reality. So according to him, how stressful is human life. So the point is, a man like Nalayan uncle who is not married. We have Kali who is married, who does not have a child. We have Muthu who is married, he have the child. But the point is, all of them have a different mindset, or all of them want to escape the reality, and they find different means to escape the reality. Like for example, Nalayan, he roams around, or he is there in different places. He finds different women. He has his own way of enjoying, and he stays away from the reality. Again, we have Kali who tries his best to stay away from the reality. He at times has his drink. He is there in his own world. Again, we see Muthu, who's this male character. Again, he's from the reality because he has his own easy passage. He has a different world for himself, and he creates a different world for himself. So we get to know that it's not just women who are pressurized in the society, but men are also pressurized in the society, which we living in the society don't address these issues. Punna leaves for the 18th-day festival in chapter 22, and chapter 22 is all about it, and all about the festival. We also get to know this character named Maran, who is a farmhand or servant, in page 154, wherein he uses the word Sami repeatedly. We also get to know the dots on about the casteism then. And 23 chapter again talks about the experience of their travel and Punna's emotion as a whole, because she didn't inform her husband that she is going for the temple festival. Chapter 24 is all about Maran and Punna's family going for the temple festival. Punna in prayer for a child, so she deliberately wants to have a child. Now again, does Punna want to have a child is a question, because it's the society, it's the patriarchal system which forces, and the matriarchal system which forces her to have a child. It's okay even if they don't have a child. It's something that the society cannot accept at all. And in page number 165, we get to understand Nalayan's theory of having a child, which is so strong. Let me just read it out. He says that we don't expect our children to take care of us when we are old. It is enough if we can have a social life because of them. Now we are forced to act like untouchables, fearing if our sight or touch is inauspicious because you don't have a child. Okay, so we have Nalayan uncle whose remarks, who is a very strong character, as strong, in fact stronger than Kali, who kind of talks about why, or questions about why should a person have a child. You can be happy without having a child too, and the society must accept one such opinion, right? And it again talks about Maran, and in chapter 25 we get to know about how Kali always isolated himself, and he was in his own world. We have story of the coconut tree coming in picture. We also have Kali and Muthu go for a drink in chapter 25, and in chapter 26 we get to know that it talks about the tree climbers and the filthy language used by women, or on women, or about women. In chapter 27 we get to know the market area, and it's a very simple chapter. And in chapter 28 we get to know the myth and the flashback story. Nothing so important there. We get to know the story of the Sadayappan who is Kali's great grandfather, again having the flashback technique. And in chapter 29 we get to know that Muthu and Kali, they have their drink and what happens all about it. There is also discussion on identity issue or issue of identity in that chapter. And in chapter 30 we get to know Ponna is all alone in the 18-day festival and what happens and how she visualizes everything around her. We see the men are dancing. We also get to know there is dance performance happening there. And in chapter 31 we get to know the festivals and the dramas and the clown shows and the music. We get to feel the complete vibe of the festival in that chapter. And in the next chapter, that is chapter 32, there is a continuation of the same feeling, and Ponna finds her god in this chapter. And in chapter 33 we see Kali wakes up, and that's all his feeling and his emotion as an individual. And chapter 34 we get to know, we get to see what Nalayan says, and finally Kali understands, this is the last chapter, and Kali understands that he was betrayed, he was cheated by Ponna herself, and that's how the story ends. Overall, if you ask about One Part Women as a whole, I see it as a fiction which celebrates, or which also talks about masculinity and how a man should be and how a man is seen in a society. With this, I say thank you.